at this event. We'd like to welcome each and every one of you for attending this most timely presentation. Although it comes to your CPD, we know you're here to increase your body of knowledge and not count your hours for licensing. Right? So, the subject of the presentations today, the head subject is Land Matters 2017. And we are in a time where we have a lot of discussion in public and government service for the property tax. The ISTT has taken a position on the property tax based on the available information that we have in the public domain, and we will be presenting that paper as our last presentation today. We also have another presentation on the international perspectives, and that will be done by Mr. Ezra Coggins. I'm sorry, Mr. Dr. Sunil Lalu. Ezra Coggins will be the last presenter. And we have Ms. Carlene Boodoo, who will be talking about the Cadastral Index Mapping System. Now, for the non-surveyors here, the Cadastral Index Mapping System is a digital parcel fabric. And for those people who are interested in developing GIS type applications to assist in property tax and property management, it will be of great value to them as a starting point. If time permits, we will also do a small presentation on a GIS property tax type application, and have a question and answer period. So the format for the presentation today will be presentations followed by maybe 5 minutes of questions, and then at the end we will have an overall panel and field questions on the 3 presentations. Okay? Alright, just as a safety briefing, I should have started with that. I'm not familiar with the safety features of the building, but nevertheless, our entryway is at the back out of the door, right hand side, and in the case of an emergency, you proceed through that exit. You go to either one of the gates on Henry Street or Federal Street, Amaste, and await instruction. Right, the building is equipped with a fire system, an alarm system that will go off. But we do not expect to have any drills today, and we should not have any interruptions from that aspect, say in the case of an actual emergency. So I would like to start things off by asking Ms. Onika Bushell, our ISTT office manager, to start us off with a prayer and get us off on the right footing for the rest of the presentations. Thank you.
Hi, could we just hold our heads? Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for life, family, and friends, the ability to see, to walk, to talk, to think, to hear. We ask you to let this session be an informative one, open the minds of our attendees, that they be open to the information they are receiving, and guide our presenters to answer them correctly. Amen.
Okay, we shall get right into the presentations, and then we will invite Ms. Carlene Boodoo from the Surveys and Mapping Division of the Ministry of Food, Agriculture, Lands and Marine Fisheries. Sorry, there are so many incarnations you get confused depending which one you're talking about. Right, so I'll ask Ms. Boodoo to come and begin her presentation. Can we give her a round of applause, please?
Thanks, Kamal. Good afternoon, everyone. And I know on your program there was a different title to what you are seeing on the screen this afternoon. So based on the theme of this workshop this afternoon, I tailored my presentation to suit that. I know this is the Institute of Surveyors. I am representing the land surveyor community. So before I get started on my presentation, I would like each and everyone to think about what I'm presenting and how it can be useful in your field of work as a surveyor. How can this cadastral management information system be used not only in property tax and cadastral surveys, but valuation surveys, quantity surveys, etc. So I want you to think spatially. I don't know how many of you are familiar with geographic information systems. By a show of hands? Yeah? Okay, so I guess it should be easy to follow along with this presentation. Okay, so this is just an outline of what I'll be touching on this afternoon, and the presentation is going to be twofold. The first part of it is going to focus mainly on the Cadastral Management Information System developed by the Surveys and Mapping Division, and the second part is how can this be used to develop a property tax information system. In the first half, there would be a demo on the public map and the land folio app. But we have been having some technical difficulties, so I might have to use a Word document to demonstrate how to use the public map. So the mandate of the Surveys and Mapping Division, as stated by the Land Surveyors Act 33 of 1996, states, and the important point here to note is the last point, that says the Director of Surveys shall be the custodian of a survey register and appropriate index of survey plans in which any survey made by a Trinidad and Tobago land surveyor shall be registered. So that is the concept of the whole Cadastral Management Information System, is putting together a parcel index map of all cadastral surveys conducted by licensed land surveyors of Trinidad and Tobago. So just a brief history of how this management information system came about. So CMIS, which stands for the Cadastral Management Information System, began as an in-house project at the Surveys and Mapping Division in 2002 to convert the index sheets in digital format. But they realized that because of the quantity and the limitation in terms of human resources to get this done, it had to be contracted out. So this contract was awarded to CMIS, Kawi of Denmark, and this project lasted for a year. Subsequent to that, as we all know, technology is evolving at a rapid pace. Almost every morning is a new piece of equipment or software update. So we decided to upgrade the Cadastral Management Information System. We got a loan through the IDB to do this upgrade, and that contract was awarded to Trimble BV Europe, and that contract lasted from 2014 to 2016. We are now in a maintenance phase with them for the next year and a half or so. So I don't know if you can see that clearly. Where is it light? I don't know. Yeah. Alright, so this is one of the workflows that is contained in the system. And some of the surveyors who have come to lodge survey plans would have experienced this. This is the workflow for real property ordinance plans. For each different type of survey or survey plan that is submitted to the Surveys and Mapping Division, it follows a particular workflow. The reason why I chose this particular workflow is that it encompasses the check staff part and the authorization part. For those of you familiar with the process, for an OLAW plan, it would not have to go through these two steps. So the first step is when a surveyor comes into the division and submits a survey plan. After that, it goes to registry. When they come in, they go to the registry section. And this is where you get your survey plan stamped and sealed. Or they record it and then send it through the process to be checked by check staff and then approved by the director. So the registry step, in terms of the Cadastral Management Information System, they capture certain attribute information, such as the land surveyor who conducted the survey, the applicant or the person whom the survey was done for, the ward, the county, the cadastral sheet reference, any reference to deeds or certificate of titles and other survey plans is entered at this stage. Some of you would have gotten a receipt when you submitted your survey plans, and this is where it happens. So the second step is attach documents. So after the registry has captured all the necessary information, they send it to another section that scans the survey plan and any other accompanying documents to that survey plan. Once that is done, the survey plan and other documents are archived or placed in a safe place so that anyone after that would be dealing with the digital copy and not the physical plan, because that is what we want to preserve. That is what we have in our archives for persons to come. So once it has been scanned and attached, it then goes to the GIS editing section where they digitize the survey plan. And once a parcel has been digitized, it is entered onto the parcel index map. After that, it goes to the check staff section where they do their checks to ensure that it meets the standards of the division. And once they are okay with everything, it then goes to the director for approval. The director does his own reviews, and once he's okay with everything, he signs off on it and then sends it back to registry or dispatch, where the surveyor is then notified to come and collect the survey plan. But as you notice, it's not just a linear workflow. You see other arrows on the sides. So for example, from registry, a survey plan can be rejected. From GIS editing, it can also be sent back to attached documents and reception, depending on if they forgot a piece of information. So at each step, whatever step it is, that particular person will double check what was entered by the previous person to ensure that all the information is captured and it is captured correctly. And then from check staff, it can be sent back to GIS editing, or it can be sent back to reception, where in the case that if there are corrections to be made, they will send it back to reception so that reception can get in touch with the surveyor to come and collect the survey plan and the accompanying documents to make the necessary correction that needs to be resubmitted. And from authorization, it can go back to GIS editing or check staff, or it can be rejected. And that is in essence one of the workflows within the Cadastral Management Information System. So there are three ways of accessing the Cadastral Management Information System. And here we have the URLs for each one. Something to note, however, we recommend that you use Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, or for the Apple users, Safari. It would not work with Internet Explorer. I don't know who still uses Internet Explorer. Alright, so the first way of accessing the information from the Cadastral Management Information System is the public map. And this is open to everyone, surveyors and members of the public. You don't need a login, username, or login. You can just enter the URL and you get the information. So on here, you're able to view the parcel index map, our base information, which is our 2014 aerial photography, as well as other vector layers collected and maintained by the Surveys and Mapping Division. The other way of accessing it is through the Landfolio app. And this app was designed specifically for licensed land surveyors. And I want to stress on that because we have had this presentation before to our stakeholders, and some of them have been registering on this site when it was clearly stated that it was only for who? Right. So, when you come on here, so for the licensed land surveyors, when you enter that URL, you will get a login page and you can register there and enter your information. Once you do that, you can access a lot more information than what is there on the public map. So you can do searches for surveys or parcels or even survey plans. Eventually we would like for you to submit your plans digitally. If you want to know where your survey plan is, you can go on and view which part of that workflow is my survey plan. And then we have our web services for our service level users. And that is more for the GIS users, the GIS power users. So if you're interested in accessing our data, specifically, the 2014 aerial photography or any of our other vector raster data sets, you can enter this URL in either AutoCAD or ArcGIS. But you must have ArcGIS 10.0 or higher. So once you enter that URL and get our information, you can now put your information on top of that and do your analysis and produce maps pertinent to you. So now I would have a demo of the public map and the land folio app. As I mentioned earlier, I was having some technical difficulties with the public map, so I would just go through a Word document with you to show you what the public map is about and the information that you can access from this website. Alright, so as previously mentioned, to access the public map, you go to ISTT.
Separate window. In the second screen.
Yeah. Alright, so as I was saying, in order to access the public map, and this is available to everyone, you don't need a username or password. You go to https www.surveys.gov.tt, and when you log in, this is what you will see. That is the 2014 aerial photography, and it's for Trinidad and Tobago. In this screenshot, you just see in Trinidad. So just a few things to keep in mind. So as I scroll down, I'll explain what these things are. So to the top, that's your top left-hand side, you have a search bar. And then to zoom in, zoom out, a home button, my location button. You can do searches for coordinates of a specific area. And then underneath here, we have some other widgets. So as I said before, I just briefly pointed it out to you so that when you log in, when you go home, you'll be familiar as to where these things are on the public map. So the first set of tools that I showed you was the plus sign, which is, as we all know, to zoom in. The minus sign is to zoom out. The little house is the home button. And then the little bullseye is my location. Something to bear in mind, my location works on a GPS. So if you're on your laptop, unless it is GPS enabled, it would not take you to your location. If you're using your cell phone or any other GPS enabled device, you would be able to use this function of the public map. Then we have the search bar. And the search bar can be used to search for things such as regional corporations, the map index, which is our 10,000 reference sheets, county, ward, parcels, roads, rivers. So whatever it is you want to search by, so say for example you want to search by Trinidad roads, first you select the layer by which you want to search by and then enter the name of the road or whatever else it is that you'll be searching by. Then we have get coordinate. What this tool does is if you're interested in finding the coordinate of a specific area or location, you click on that and it gives you the coordinates either in WGS 84 or NAPRIMA 1955. I know this will be useful for some of you if you know, hey, I have a site to go out to and I'm not too sure where it is. You can go on there, get a coordinate, enter it into your handheld GPS, and then use that to find the site. Then, okay, so these are the different coordinate systems by which you can get the coordinates for. And then these are the widgets that I was showing you to the bottom of the public map. So the first widget is a legend. So as all of you would know, a legend more or less gives a description of the symbol used for a particular item or layer. Then we have the layers list. The layer list gives you all the layers that is in the Cadastral Management Information System. Something to know that in the public map, these layers are not editable. It is only editable in our web services. Well, not really editable, but as I said, you can put your information on top of it and do your queries and analysis. So under the first layer, we have web mapping. Under web mapping, we have all our vector data sets, such as the roads, the parcels, rivers, ward, county, etc. And under that, you have the auto photos for Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago is on its own layer, whereas Trinidad is divided into 4 blocks. So depending on the area that you are working on, you would select that accordingly. So you would see Auto 2015 Trinidad Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. Under web mapping, the parcel layer is available. And you will see 3 different types of parcel layers. The first one is called parcel. Under parcel, you will have the current parcel layer, the most updated parcel layer for Trinidad and Tobago. Then the next one you will see is parcel archive. Parcel archive would contain previous surveys that was done for parcels. So for example, we are in the old Ministry of Sport building. It might have had 5 surveys conducted. So the most recent one would be on the parcel layer and the other 4 surveys would be on the parcel archive layer. And then you'll have the provisional parcel layer that would contain parcel information of surveys waiting for approval. But at least you know that something is there for that specific parcel. Then we have our base map gallery. So the default base map for the public map is the 2014 aerial photography of Trinidad and Tobago, but you can also choose from Google Maps. You have the topographic information and also the ICONOS 2007 satellite imagery. And then you have the functionality to draw on the map. So if you see an area of interest, you want to draw a rectangle around it and clip it, you can do so using the draw tool. You can also add annotation to it. So if you want to put the name of the area of interest, you can enter that using the draw tool. Measurement tool. You can also find the area, the distance, and here you can also find the coordinate under the measurement tool. And then we have another location too. So this is used if you have a coordinate or someone gives you a coordinate and you want to know where this coordinate falls. You enter that information here and click get location, and it takes you to that location on the public map. And then the attribute table gives you information about a specific area, such as the ward, the county. So depending on the extent of your screen, whatever parcels are in that area, if you're interested in a particular parcel and you click on it, it will give you the information of that parcel or those parcels in that area. So I know it's dark and it's hot and you guys just had lunch, but remember in the beginning I asked you to think spatially. So I hope as I'm going through this, you're doing that. So, and then we have the map overview. So based on where you are located, this is a reference to where you are in Trinidad. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So that is it for the public map.
It'll get hotter.
And now your breeze coming in. That breeze. Yeah, that nice cool breeze.
So now that you have seen the Cadastral Management Information System, I hope you have thought about how it can be integrated in today's topic, which is property tax, and it's a hot topic throughout the country. So most of you indicated that you're familiar with GIS, and a GIS is simply a geographic information system. But how does this relate to the topic of today? So I don't know if you'll agree with me, but a GIS-based property tax solution can streamline property tax collection. So as seen in the Cadastral Management Information System, we have workflows. And once we know what we need to follow, it shouldn't be as much chaos. It will also improve record keeping and thereby enabling better decision making. It can also be used to identify unassessed and unauthorized properties. So you can sit from your office and see which properties were accessed and which weren't. It can also improve transparency and, create more confidence in the taxpayer. Just as how you see that the Surveys and Mapping Division has a public interface. If a public interface is available for taxpayers to go on there and see, well, okay, this is my property, this is the information they have on my property, they can submit documents, they become a bit more confident in what is happening. And in the Cadastral Management Information System, we can generate reports, and you can do the same for a property tax information system. You want to know how many persons pay their taxes in a particular area, or who has outstanding taxes. And not just for the general public, but you can also do it internally to see your productivity. And how does the CMIS tie into the property tax? So the CMIS forms the basis for any land information system or any geographic information system that is parcel based. And the Surveys and Mapping Division, is a source for authoritative and the fundamental data sets for Trinidad and Tobago. So we are responsible for collecting cadastral data, topographic data, aerial imagery and auto photography, LiDAR data, and also identifying UPINs or UPRNs for our parcels. So to the side of the slide there, you can see how all this information can tie into property tax. So you can start off with the base of our aerial photography, the 2014 aerial photography, and then the cadastral framework, lots, the tax parcels, the zoning and land use, and the administrative boundaries. And I think I'm not. Right, so I don't know if many of you have heard of the National Spatial Data Infrastructure, or the NSDI. But why mention the NSDI? After putting out so much energy and effort, you don't want that to go down in vain. And what the NSDI will encourage is to allow data sets collected by various divisions and ministries to be discoverable. I don't know if any of you have been looking for data and you go online, specifically for Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know, what do you find? Nothing. If you say, I'm looking for aerial photography for Trinidad and Tobago, and you enter that in Google, you would not find anything. And this is what we want to encourage. It also facilitates data sharing and accessibility. So the NSDI will become the geo portal or the hub for all this information. So you can go onto their site and you can see the list of information. As I mentioned earlier, it would eliminate duplication of efforts and resources. We know that in tough economic times, we have to cut back on our spending. And sometimes, even though we are mandated to collect information, we don't have the financial or human resources to do so. But another ministry might have the need for the information, but we cannot provide it to them. And it so happens that they might collect the information and then they will keep the information. And then when we get the funding, we will collect the same information. And then, it just doesn't make sense. And they would also implement and enforce data standards. This is something that we are lacking here in Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of times we will get data sets from many sources, but which one is the correct one? What standards were used to collect this information? What can this information be used for? So these are some things that the NSDI can do. I have one more demo to do, and that is with the Landfolio app. Okay, so as I said before, this app is mainly for the land surveyors, and you would be given a login, username, and password. Okay, so when you log in, this is the first page that you will come to. And under this, you will see my work queue, my stall folios, and my productivity. So my work queue more or less gives you a summary of all the survey plans in each different step of a workflow. My stall folios will give all of the folios that were sitting in a particular point for an extended period of time. So that is the dashboard. I am now going on to my folios. My folios will give you a list of all the folios sitting in a particular step of the workflow. So today, to your left, you would see a long list of items here. But for the land surveyors, you would only be seeing attached documents and reception. So you would see all surveys pertaining to you under these two items. And I think this would be of interest to you. Under search, this is the true power of the app, the Landfolio app. So when you're doing searches, you can come in here and do a search. You want to know surveys that were done by a particular surveyor. You can do that by selecting the surveyor's name. You want to know, or if you know the applicant's name and the surveyor's name, you can enter the applicant's name here and the surveyor's name here. You can also do searches by other attributes from the system. So you can search by a Cassini sheet, a county, land acquisition number, UTM sheet, etc. If you notice on the receipt that you receive from the division, there is a folio number or an application number. You can also search based on that number. You can search based on the date created. The folio type would be whether the type of survey that was submitted. So if it was a survey order or an OLO plan or an RPO plan, you can search based on that also. If you have an idea as to where it might be, you can also search for it there. You can also search by a book and folio or plan reference. And as I said, all the other attributes. You have the map here. It would not come up, but it's more or less the same as in the public map. And then we have the last two tabs. Those are for the internal users at the Surveys and Mapping Division. So you would not have access to reports or administration. And that is it for the Landfolio app. And let me go back to, all right. So that is it for my presentation. If you have any questions. Yeah. Hi. So your hand first.
Okay, the next microphone.
We have changed our administrative districts from ward and counties to regional corporations since 1991 or thereabouts. Do we have a GIS layout based on regional corporations?
Yes, it was one of the layers in the public map.
Hi, so I saw that you were accessing current plans and whatever. Can this do older plans, as in the older books and whatever? Like if I have to do a search and it's, let's say, a 300 book or a 200 book, can I get access to those?
No, not as yet, because the database, right now the Cadastral Management Information System has information from 2004 to present, but we are working on getting older plans into the system. So we had a cutoff date of 1990 to present to enter into the system.
So is the Ministry of Finance utilizing this system for the property tax? And why not if not?
I think that will better be answered by someone from the Ministry of Finance.
But don't notify them.
Quite right.
They paid for it.
So they will know.
The zoning and land use layer, is this town and country authorized?
We don't have a zoning and land use layout.
That was only one, not system.
Okay.
I think one of the answer to question really is that during the period that the property tax structure was put in place, we did not have the mapping available to us. It was in between two sessions of that build-up of parcel annexation. So we didn't have it, but the system is built to receive it when it, and I understand it's now available.
Correct.
Okay, if we could hold up at that point, and we can, any additional questions, you'll try and address it at the end of all the presentations. Okay. All right, could we give a round of applause to Ms. Boodoo? Okay, the next presenter will go straight into it, and after his presentation, we'll take a short break. We have Dr. Sunil Lalu, who's with the International Perspectives of Property Tax. So we could give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to ISTT's CPD seminar on what is largely property tax. Now, I'm sure you would have seen us in the media over the past weeks. Many may not agree with the position that the ISTT has taken, but you can vent your frustration to my colleague Ashik. Who will be presenting the ISTT's position before.
Big chairs.
He will also be presenting the Trinidad and Tobago case study on the report and give you a brief history of that. Sorry to preempt you there, I can throw you under the bus. But better you than me. Alright, now I realize from discussions that we've had over the past couple of weeks that we have assumed incorrectly that everybody has a basic understanding of property tax as well as what are the options that are available, and that was erroneous. Even among our own professional circles, many people don't know what's happening in the region or internationally, and therefore it is with good reason that we have decided to take this route to have this presentation first. So I'll be giving you just an overview of property tax briefly, because I know for many of you that will be a routine revision of what you know extensively already, and then we will get into some international and regional experiences. So what is a property tax? It is a tax on property. If you didn't know. What are some of the characteristics of this specific tax? And I was mentioning this just last week, that property tax is a very specific instrument. It is not just a random levy that is placed on the citizenry. And that is why we need to understand what are the unique characteristics of the tax. One, it is recurrent and typically annual. Typically, meaning that it's not always. In some countries, you have biannual property taxes. I haven't seen a monthly basis as yet. Some are quarterly. But most of them are annually, meaning that you pay this tax over and over again as the years go along, as compared to something like stamp duty, which is one-off based on a transaction. So it is different from stamp duty. It's not the same. It is ad valorem, usually. An ad valorem tax is one that is based on value. Another ad valorem tax is VAT. So VAT is based specifically on the value of a product. Property tax is based specifically on the value of property as an asset. And this is a very important point to note, that it is imposed usually by local government. Many countries would actually define property tax as a local government tax. It is collected by the municipalities, by the regional or local corporations. They determine what the tax is. They are the ones who administer it, collect it, and use it. Okay? That is one of the unique characteristics of a property tax. But why should you tax property? At the Habitat Conference in the 70s, they said the unearned, meaning that you do not contribute to this, the unearned increment resulting from the rise in land values that results as a direct result, that comes as a direct result from either the change in the use of the land, from public investment or public decision, or due generally to the growth of the community must be subject to an appropriate recapture by public bodies. So what Habitat is saying is that by virtue of the state's decisions or the state's improvements to private property increases in value, increases in equity. And so it must have some mechanism to recapture some of that value so that the process of improving infrastructure, of providing urban services can be sustainable. So the same increase that you benefit from as a result of the state's improvements to private property is taxed for that use as well, right? And these are decisions. An easy example of that is a decision by town and country. So an area, remember we don't have zones in Trinidad, we don't have land use zones, we have land use designations, which from a planning perspective are two very different tools. So land use designations in Trinidad and Tobago, let's say one area was designated for use as agricultural, and a decision by cabinet was taken to change it to commercial. Based on that very drastic land use change, the value of property will dramatically increase. And therefore, the state must have some mechanism of recapturing some of that value. In terms of governance and why state institutions have a reason for charging property taxes, because one of it is that the tax base is immovable. Land does not move from where it is unless you're dealing with a chattel. Somebody actually asked me if trailers, if you have a trailer, if that could be charged property tax. Well, no. This is based on immovable property, rights immovable property. So the tax base is sure. A local government institution that is charging a tax knows what is their area of base. Okay? Revenues must be under local control if local government is to be responsive to community needs. If a tax is collected based on a locality, on a position of a property, and it does not come back to the local government institution, they cannot be held responsible for the services and infrastructure that they provide. And that is why, that's another justification. It also minimizes distortions created in the broader economy. Revenues generated in the economy on the whole from oil and gas industries, from VAT and other taxable sources, could waver with changes in international economic situations as well as local economic situations. However, tax on property, because property is a lagging asset, it is something that isn't affected by international market conditions as fast as other economies. It is therefore a more reliable source. And what are some of the benefits? They are none. The benefits of property tax is that it is the main source of revenue for local government. The main source of revenue, and therefore it can be used to give local government institutions some degree of fiscal autonomy. It also discourages speculation and urban sprawl. So we have many instances throughout the Caribbean and especially throughout the developing world where people hold land, they speculate, they hold land idle for many, many years, anticipating its improvement in value or anticipating a decision made politically that will change the use. And because they hold the land idle in order to benefit from these large profit margins, the land is just there held idle and not put to productive use, and therefore it impedes our development goals, the development goals of any institution, of any country. The tax base will grow as the economy grows. So that is also a benefit of it. And it is perceived philosophically as socially equitable. Because it is ad valorem, the tax is directly reflects the value for properties. The more the property is valued, the larger the tax. And so in theory, philosophically, it is viewed as socially equitable. And also progressive. Progressive meaning that as time goes by, changes in value in the property would result naturally in changes in the tax. So if property values were to decrease, the tax ought to decrease as well. I'm hearing all the murmuring, and we will come to that. It has been described as a tax everyone loves to hate. Now, something as simple as income tax. Income tax is something you get, liquid cash, and the state tells you, you have to pay 25% of this. So I have liquid cash in my hand, take out 25% and hand the state. Or as a matter of fact, they take it and then hand you the remainder. So it is easier to understand as compared to a tax that is based on an asset that is not liquid. So a non-liquid asset that you're paying a monetary tax on, people can't find the connection and can't see that as something generally that is fair. You're taking something, a non-monetary asset, and charging me a monetary-based tax. It is a political and administrative nightmare in practice. That is not something that is unique to Trinidad and Tobago. Because of heightened awareness, this leads to increasing resistance and a lack of public buy-in. So the more we educate the public, unfortunately, the more likely they are to reject the tax. There's also no correlation between tax liability and someone's ability to pay. So your liability for tax, an individual's liability for tax, is based on the value of their property and not their income stream. So for people who are especially asset rich and cash poor, it may seem very inequitable. It can also worsen regional disparities in the economy, which causes the rich to be richer and the poor to be poor. Enforcement proceedings based on property tax can be seen as a threat to the sanctity of having a house, especially if those enforcement proceedings are brought on in terms of forfeiture or in terms of distress. And it may be challenged on a constitutional grounds for that matter. Okay? For countries that have those Bill of Rights. So, to give you a recap of what you studied in university, some of the bases of property tax are these. Now these are the main ones. There are many countries that have all kind of different randomness that they apply, but these are the major ones that I picked up. Most property tax systems in the world are based on capital value, the amount of property would sell for on the open market. After that, the second most popular regime is annual rental value, which is seen as a useful alternative in cases of developing countries where they don't want to go full ad valorem. Okay, so it is used as a first step in the process kind of thing, with the intention that at some stage the tax will be reformed into a full ad valorem capital value tax. Unimproved site value, or the land only value, is the value of the property, assuming that there is no improvements, no buildings there. So we look at the land value alone. That, like annual rental value, is an initial type of system. Countries that start with that usually change it after a few years because the revenue that is generated from that isn't much. Then we have value based on the improvements. So this is the opposite of unimproved site area value, which is the value of the buildings or improvements. Area is a very interesting one. And there is another one-like area called cadastral value, which is based on scientific formula where they work out what is the homogeneous value of an area. So in comparison to unimproved site area value, which is the value of that specific piece of land, cadastral value is the basis of, the average basis of vacant land in an area where the area has a homogeneous market. That is not the same thing as a unit area approach, which is not market-based. So area that I'm talking about here is not a market-based approach, and it is used in countries where they have little to no market data. So I remember we were discussing this in Bulgaria when the FIG had their property tax workshop, and it was being discussed for rural Ghana and for rural Nigeria, where in some very, very remote areas, there's no formal transactions taking place in land. So there's no registry that says land sells for this amount, a house sells for that amount. Most of the lands were tribal or very open terrain that had no transactable value, so to speak. And so the state, in order to gain some kind of revenue, would just apply usually some very random but small figure per square meter of the land and charge a tax based on that. Okay? So that is not ideal at all. That is only used in countries, in zones where there is no market evidence to substantiate an ad valorem tax. Replacement cost is very unique. This is how much it would cost to replace an existing structure that is there. And in the Caribbean, the only example I came across with that is Antigua. And I really don't know what is going on and why they chose that route. And it will be interesting to note. I found no literature to substantiate it, but that is what they have posted on the government website, that one of the systems, they may have no experts. Oh, I see. So it is based on depreciated replacement cost. So they would calculate the value to replace that building and depreciate it for the time that it is there or its obsolescence. Can you see this clearly? This table is taken from a recent article by Mikulski and Bell that in their survey of countries throughout the world on what basis that were used in those countries. Now the figures are not going to add up then. You see how you have Africa is they surveyed 25 countries, but the numbers going across would be more. That is because in some countries they will use more than one basis. A good example of that is right in Barbados, and we will come to Barbados just now. Which is if you think Trinidad property tax system is complicated, that I don't know how they have that running efficiently, because philosophically that looks like pure mess.
Any Bajans?
Now on the African continent, remember they have very, very, very different economies. Many people erroneously treat Africa like it is one big country. It is really not. Sub-Saharan Africa is fundamentally different from Central Africa, which is fundamentally different from North Africa, right? So the economies are very different. Francophone Africa is also different from Anglophone Africa because they have French inherited law. And we see that disparity even in the Caribbean with St. Lucia. St. Lucia land law is different from the rest of the Commonwealth Caribbean. Okay? So I want to draw your attention to the Caribbean, where they surveyed 13 countries, 8 of which applied annual rental value. Now that study must have been a little bit older, because when I reviewed it, there were some countries that moved away from it. Like St. Lucia, for example, used annual rental value up until their major reform in 2011, where they moved over to capital value. And because as I said, that is the end goal, right? A properly functioning property tax ought to be fully enveloped. Okay, so that's some nice statistics there. And these presentations will be given to you as well as some of the literature, so that you can do your own reading and see if you come up with a different conclusion from myself. A very useful category that has been used in the Western world is value bands. So when they say here this, we don't have the time to value every property individually and charge everybody a different tax. We have a value band between this figure and that figure. If property falls and we lump you into that one and charge you the same tax as everybody in that band. Okay? It is a simpler approach, and it is used in Ireland. It is also used in the UK and in some provinces in Australia. They estimate the value of clusters rather than individual properties to see what would be a sensible cluster. Finite number of clusters must be defined, and every property is thrown into one of these clusters, and all houses in that cluster pay the same tax in the community. So this is an example of the band that is used in UK. And to help you understand all of these numbers, the central band, which is D, would pay a tax. They worked out for that rate, if you look at D, between £45,000 and £58,000. They would pay £1,500 per year as a tax. Okay? So that is the base level tax, which is £1,500 a year. £1,500 a year. And then each of the other bands are a fraction of that. So band A pays 6/9 of 1,500, whereas band H pays twice that, which is 3,000 euros. Right? That's simply enough. That's how the value bands work. It has been shown there's also a significant literature that worked quite well in Ireland and had a lot of public buy-in. Because people can easily say, well, my house definitely in this band. Right? So it was easy for them, and they also allowed individuals to go online and say which band you are falling in. And you base the initial tax result on that, and what people opine as the band that it fell. Right? Okay. Now, we live in 2017, and my esteemed colleague Carlene spoke about the GIS-based property tax. If we are sitting down and doing our calculations with a pen, we would not be moving in the technological direction reporting. And when it comes to doing appraisals for property tax, we ought to be looking at computer-aided mass appraisals. How the private sector conducts valuations and even